I spy Tom. This is not the smartest guys in the room. NTSG, not the smartest guys in the room. How are you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing well, buddy. How are you?
You sound good. You look good. You've been rolling. You've been wearing hoodies a good bit lately. Is that like is it season of hoodies or is
Oh,
that just how you roll?
it's hoodie weather.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's hoodie weather. I like. I've become a big fan of the hoodie. It was like one of those things. It was funny. When I was younger, I didn't like hooded sweatshirts at all. Like I didn't like hoodies. I didn't wear them for years, and then all of a sudden, like I was just sort of like rediscovered the hoodie and rekindled my affection for it. And so now I'm all hoodie all the time, baby.
Have we talked about are you hoodie under a jacket too? Is that a style you roll with?
Oh, I will 100% hoodie under a jacket. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Don't you feel all bloated when you're hoodie under a jacket?
I mean, not really. It depends on it depends on how everything fits, I guess, right? Like if the jacket is tight over top of the hoodie, then yeah, you probably feel that way a little bit. But um I tend not to go like if I have a jacket that has a hood, then I tend not to wear like a hoodie with a jacket with a hood,
Okay.
right? Because then you got double hood, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I get
There's too
that.
much happening. You sit in the car and you're like heads pushed forward because you've got like a whole pile of hood behind you. It's all
Yeah,
yeah.
that's no good. I was wondering, like, when you're rocking like a sport jacket, are you wearing the hood?
Oh no, also I don't know. I don't know that I ever rock a sport jacket. I pretty much like I pretty much am either dressed relatively casually, like semi-casually in my own way. So it'd be like still be like with the hat and everything, but then I'll have like a button-up shirt or something. And sometimes I'll wear um something over the shirt, like a vest or something like that if it's a little bit chilly out. But then I'll just go like it's either that, like that's kind of the most dressed up I get until I just put on a suit.
That's fair. Okay. Okay, we got a good breakdown of your fashion. I found this shirt today. I got a purple shirt on. I had it, and for some reason I didn't like it, and then I pulled it out and put it on today. I look like $1 million. Maybe I was just a maybe it was just a confidence thing. I was like, that shirt stinks. I didn't wear it. I pull it out today. It's like magical, perfect fit. What do you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, look, I think like a lot of guys get steered away, especially when we're younger, right? Like we get steered away from wearing colors that might be sort of seen as like effeminate or soft or whatever, or like just sort of colorful, right? But yeah, I mean, I now 100% will like rock like a pink shirt or like whatever. Like I think I would 100% do that. I'm right there with you. So like yeah, purple shirt or something, like, yeah, bring it on, man. If it looks good,
We're
it looks
strong.
good.
We're strong. We're proud. Okay, not the smartest guys in the room. How's your service? We were going to talk. I pitched it, service. I'm thinking so many people, like I live in this world, what do we call it? Under promise, over deliver. My belief is I'm going to try to tell you what I'm going to do, whether that's via contract, via explanation meeting, and then always deliver more. And so somebody else might say, well, why didn't you say you were going to do this and do this and do this? Well, I did do that, but I didn't. I underpromised and then I delivered more. And so this world that I try to never set myself up that I can't deliver on something that I said I was going to do. So many people out there, and this could be a detriment because maybe I should just tell people all these crazy things and make all these promises, and maybe I'd have twice the business. But I see so many people out there promising everybody everything and they don't deliver on it. People get mad at them. So, Tom, what's the answer? Jason, what's going on here? I see my friend Jason here. So, Tom, what do you think about that? And let's talk service.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big subscriber to the idea that it's very easy to under promise and over deliver, right? It's easy to, and I like to think of it this way, like it's more just a matter of realistically managing people's expectations, right? So I think you provide a set of expectations for your customer, your audience. You as a business are in charge of what that set of expectations is, right? Like that is 100% within your control. You tell your customers, here's what you're buying from me, right? Here's the service I'm going to provide. Here's the product I'm going to provide, which is also a service to some extent, like if you wanted to sort of get a little bit more philosophical about it. But here's what I'm going to provide. Here's the cost. Here's what you should expect for that cost, right? Like this is the transaction. This is what you're getting. And I think like that's 100% within your control. So I think when you do it well, and for myself, I do this a lot, is I'll say, look, here's what you should expect. We will try to deliver above and beyond that set of expectations, but that is the minimum you should expect. And then we will often deliver above that minimum, and it creates an opportunity where the customers that we're working with, the folks that we're working with, are almost perpetually impressed with what we deliver because we manage their expectations well. We ground their expectations in reality, and then we tend to over deliver on that set of expectations, which creates sort of a positive outcome for both of us. They get more than they thought they were going to get, and we get the benefit of that positive perception in their eyes, right? That positive experience for them. So it's kind of a win-win on both sides. I have a friend named a guy named Tim Dwyer, who's from Brisbane, Australia, and I was actually just with him last weekend working on a project together down in Florida. And he has a thing where he, like, his whole thing is he talks about purpose over profit, right? And he's a consultant. He works with brands and with businesses to help them shift from profit-driven models and profit-driven approaches to business to purpose-driven approaches to business. And one of the reasons that we have started working together over the last year is because he and I share that philosophy. We kind of call it different things, right? But it works really well with, or jives really well with, my whole idea around delivering value first, right? That you should lead with value for your clients, customers, audience, the community that you seek to serve. You should always be looking for opportunities to deliver value first and foremost before you ever ask for anything in return, right? Before you even talk about a product or talk about a service or talk about a price, you should always be offering value first that benefits the community that you want to serve, and then create the opportunities for them to return that value to you through your brand or your business. But yeah, it kind of, it all lines up really well. There's a lot of different ways to really kind of like say similar things, right? Which is thinking about purpose over profit, thinking about leading with value, or thinking about just how do I provide the best service for my customers. So yeah, so that's I mean, those are kind of my thoughts on it. I think that's a good place to kind of kick off the conversation. What do you think, Dom?
I think that's good stuff all around, man. I appreciate it. Okay, so Jason, when you're out there when you're dealing with a contractor or you're signing on the dotted line or you're even at a restaurant, what service expectations do you have?
First, what's my need and what's their need? I mean, if it's like, because I work in the legal business and it's client relations and it does with contracts and it deals with so many different facets, you know, I just look at, can we meet of the minds and like, what are you really asking for? And then I meet expectations based on just that conversation. I don't I don't go and what I don't do, and I really had to work on this in the last couple of years, is I don't promote myself like a bulletin board or a billboard, so to speak. No flashing lights. It's like I try to set the stage or set the table, kind of like, I think Tom was the one that said this a while back, but set the table for someone to sit down. And if they don't want to sit down, that's okay. But the word expectation I don't like it because it just doesn't, it creates stress before the action even takes place. I know like what I do for a living has a certain level of licensed expectation, right? So they know that ethically and legally I'm going to have to be responsible. So that's the first part. That's my first part of my responsibility. Second part is like, um, you know, they're probably going to ask, what's my experience, and I relate my experience through situations. I don't give them the whole answer, because if I did that, they'd walk out the door. I just give them kind of like a sample tasting, like when you're at Costco, it's like if you really want it, you taste it, you like it, you enjoy it, you go with it. But if you don't, it's okay, and I think that's where people go wrong, is they have expectations before invitations, and is the invitation right for them? If more of us did business that way, we think about how we're meeting the minds with the invitation versus the expectation. I think that we get a lot further ahead than we already are, and I've actually proven that in my own career. I've gone through definitely hoops of fire. I've gone through storms. I've gone through a lot of things, but when I think about the word expectations in my work, it's like I don't advertise my business. I never advertise my business at all. Everything, and it's weird because my business is so specialized that it's usually word of mouth. But I also go out into the field. I meet people. I meet people out in agriculture. I get familiar within the community of what I need from them, because what I offer them is an answer to what they don't have experience in. So I just lead with the invitation. Can we meet at the table? And let's go from there. And then I ask them questions, and I encourage them to ask questions, because a lot of times in the legal field, people have anticipation of what they think they know. And I have to calm the momentum down enough to say, I can listen, I can attend, and I can fulfill. And this is where I meet the fulfillment in along every step of the way through the stages. I make sure that if there's anything unclear, let's hammer it out, you know? So hopefully that really answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, Jason, and I definitely I definitely agree with some of the stuff like that you were saying there. And obviously, feel free to flash and correct me if I'm wrong here, but one of the things that I think I also kind of have um battled against is that or tried to work with or work through is the idea that like I want people to I never want people to feel like they're sort of being sold to, right? I don't ever want my customers or my audience or my community or any of the people I interact with, I don't want them to ever feel like an obligation or that they're being pitched to all the time, right? I want people to really feel that they've come to the decision to work with me because it is the best decision for them, and for their particular need, and not because it was the slickest sales pitch or it was the prettiest package that they were offered, only to later find out that it wasn't actually what they needed, didn't serve their needs well, and that maybe they feel like they got kind of uh, um, sold a bill of goods that we didn't deliver on, right? I think that like that's something I've definitely sort of struggled with in my own business, is trying to get over that hump of feeling comfortable with having a sales process, right? Like I still don't have a good sales process for my business. But I'll say this, I think it's okay and it's good that I don't yet have that sales process, because I will have that sales process. I'm working towards that. It's okay that I don't, because I think generally speaking, and this again is going back to my friend Tim Dwyer, like one of the things that he talks about in his notion of like purpose over profit, or purpose first, being a purpose driven business. One of the things he talks about there is the sort of the order in which you build your business, right? And the idea is that you start with brand, right? You kind of build brand first, then you design product, and then you go to sales. And that is sort of the fastest way to actually grow a business that is consistent with the values that you want the business to have. And that's kind of something that I'm kind of working towards. I've sort of done brand and product simultaneously, but I feel like I've got an established brand at this point. I've got a solid suite of products that we offer, of services that we offer. And so now is actually the right time to start building out that sales process. And so that's why, like, I'm working with another company now to help do lead generation for me, so that we can sort of build a sales pipeline for my company so that we can scale. So I sort of have some after the fact validation from my friend Tim that I've gone about things the right way, sort of intuitively. It's how it felt right to do it for me, right? Was to sort of build the brand and the products first and then think about the sales process. But I think also when you approach it that way, when you know you have a great brand, and what your brand's values are, right? And what you stand for. And you know you've got good products and services that are in alignment with those brand values and are consistent with your values, right? And the way you want to do business. Then by the time you get around to doing sales, right? And to building that sales process and that sales pipeline, it suddenly doesn't feel so icky anymore, right? It doesn't feel sleazy because you're selling something that you believe in and that you know delivers on its promise, right? That you know delivers for your customers, your clients. And so I think both it works in terms of how the order in which you build a business to scale it quickly, but it also works in terms of how it feels if you're sort of a values driven business owner, how it feels to build that business that way, because all of those things are sort of working together towards a goal or an end that you believe in, towards a mission that you believe in already, rather than making a thing and selling it and then trying to figure out what your mission is after the fact. So I don't know. I hope that makes sense, but I feel like, or that's just what you were saying, Jason, and I don't want to put my own sort of things on you. But what you were saying, that's what it made me think about myself and my own sort of process and what I've gone through building my business.
Yeah, there's nothing worse. Oh, sorry, Dominic.
No,
Go ahead.
on, Jason. Go on. I'm going to give you some.
No, there's nothing worse. I worked in restaurants for about 15 years before I got in the legal business. And along the way, you learned how the approach, like we've had guests on like John from Law Enforcement Radio, where he would talk about like pitch and hook, right? And it really kind of sunk in and made me think about my restaurant service. Every time someone's brand new sat down in the table, it's kind of like you're doing a little bit of recon. You're kind of just like, hey, we're here. And while you're there, it's like you learn the different maneuvers for different personality types, and you're learning different ways. And there's nothing worse than when people are trying something for the very first time. They have an interest. Now, how do you sauce up the experience, not the expectation, right? And have you ever eaten at a restaurant that probably the food was really crappy, but the experience of just being there was good enough? And I've had that. And I've had guests who I've served said, I really didn't like your food, but I liked you. You helped me and my family get comfortable and feel welcome so that I don't have to stress out, or so that I don't know. You made my, and I've had countless Mother's Day. Anyone who works in the restaurant business knows that when you work Mother's Day, there's high anxiety, long waits, high stress, volume of food, volume of speed, and there's going to be errors. But it could be that one person who just walks you through it. And it's like, look, you're there to sit down and be served, right? And my job is not to make you feel comfortable. My job is to provide and assist you with the experience. So if we looked at it that way, we're really just we're connecting the chains, and it gets stronger. And I can't tell you how many guests in my past, which led into my legal career, who literally said to me, I hated your food, I'll be honest with you, but I loved the experience. And they were honest about their feedback, and I was like kind of like off-putting, like they stayed all this time eating crappy food in their mind because of me. They really did say, you helped me relax. Mom was smiling. Sorry, my phone was ringing. Sorry about that. But no, you made my mom smile. And my mom is hard to please. My mom is hard to get along with. And that's just it. And when you just kind of like you get interested in what you do with them, that's like the win. That is the total win. So I'll just take a pause.
Good stuff, Jason. Man, we appreciate you adding this restaurant style uh, because this is very service based. So go on, Tom. What do you want to add?
Well, I was just, it reminded me of, and this is something I've talked about sort of ad nauseum in here before. And Dom, you're probably going to nod and smile and in sort of recognition when I say this out loud, being like, yeah, Tom, I've heard this 100 times. But it's that what really matters, like ultimately the goal for any business is to make someone feel good, to make your customers or your audience feel good about supporting your business or your brand, right? Like that, if you can do that, if you can make someone feel good about that decision, you're done. Like that's everything after that is a cakewalk. The sales will come, people will become return customers, they will advocate for your business, they will tell all their friends and family that they should come see you for the service or the products that you provide. All you have to do really, like the goal is to make people feel good about the decision to support your brand or your business, right? And it made me think of Jason's story, like made me think of very quick aside, probably not true now, but for more than a decade, the best service I had ever had in a restaurant was at an Outback Steakhouse, sitting in the bar area, in a booth in the bar area, right? Which, like, booths in the bar area kind of notoriously don't get great service in restaurants, right? Because often, well, I mean, for a variety of reasons, but often they don't get great service, right, in a restaurant. And I think we can all agree, even if you like Outback, and Outback's fine, but the food is decidedly mediocre at best, right? Like it is not, nobody, very few people are like, actually, I should say, nobody thinks of the Outback as fine dining, right? Even people who love Outback would agree that it is not great, amazing food, right? But this waiter was just out of bounds good. I mean, it was me and one of my college roommates, the two of us. We were under 21, so we were sitting in a booth at the bar drinking soda. And this guy, like, we couldn't even get like 3/4 of the way through a soda, and another one would just get set down on the table in front of us, right? Like every time we needed something, we didn't even have to open our mouths. Like it would almost be like we were down to like the last piece of bread, right? And would about to be like, oh, we should ask for more bread, and he would just drop a new loaf of bread on the table, right? Like, I mean, it was almost like preternatural, like he was reading our minds. He was so good. We were broke ass college students for whom like going to dinner at Outback was kind of a big deal at the time, right? Broke ass college students went to dinner at Outback. We gave this guy a 50% tip. That's how amazing he was, right? And it just goes to show it really was because of how he made us feel, because it was so clear that he was paying attention to what we needed and was on point to make sure he delivered for us, that we just felt so well taken care of, so seen, so heard, so understood. These two college students who were like eating a stupid amount of bread, drinking like way too many sodas, like all of those kind of things, like taking advantage of the stuff that just is never ending, comes to the table bottomless, whatever, that you don't have to pay extra for, right? Because we're broke ass college students. And he was just like, I'm here for you guys, right? Like, doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter that like each soda isn't adding to the bottom line of the check and making sure my tip will be bigger, whatever. We gave him like a 50% tip, which was a big deal to us, considering like how stretched we were for cash at the time. So look, if you can make people feel good about the decision to support your business, right, they will go out of their way to make your business successful too. So that's just what it made me think of. How about you, Dom?
Okay, I got comments to Jason and you, and on this premise of how's your service, I am wondering in both cases, is it about expectations? So, with setting expectations or going above expectations. So, you, as a bread eating college student, slugging a lot of sodas, this server went above and beyond. When you had basic expectations of how somebody would treat you, they went above and beyond. And so, being that they might not have, they, we had a basic agreement of how we would be treated when you go into a restaurant. This person went above and beyond. Jason, when I think Jason worked at Fridays like me back in the day. Or with his clients now. If you ask questions, so in the process, you talk about, if I ask questions and I can say to them, what did you expect? What did you want today? And then meet those demands and go a little farther. So I think you automatically are going to deliver. So how's your service? Not the smartest guys in the room. Not the smartest guys in the room. We're talking about service today. Tom, we appreciate everybody for being here. Where all are we at today?
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. We always appreciate everybody tuning in, listening, watching, either live or after the fact, because obviously, as you alluded to, we are streaming around the internet, but wherever we are streaming, it also lives. So if you're busy on Wednesday morning at 9:30, between 9:30 and 10:30, if you can't join us, if you missed the live stream, don't worry. No need to cry in your Cheerios. You'll be able to catch us on a replay either on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. We are streaming on all those channels. We are also streaming on Twitch for the one or two people that ever catch us there. Might as well, right? It is a live streaming channel. It's kind of the whole point. So I figured, why not? We'll stream on Twitch too. But yeah, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We are live right now and also there for replay. So if you miss it live, never fear. You can get your fill of Tom's Thumbs or show and tell or a trip down memory lane with Dom anytime you want. All you got to do is tune into one of our channels on either Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube.
That's right on. And you might see yourself made into a short or a reel. And isn't it funny that when you share like a short or a reel, here's what's weird on a sidebar. So I could break down the long form video into like a minute, 90 seconds, something like that. I could put the similar video on 3 platforms. Let's say I put it in Instagram, I put it in YouTube, I put it on TikTok. The same video, all of a sudden, one day on YouTube does 1,000, and on TikTok it does 100. The next time, the same type video does 900 views on one and 20 on the other. What is it that makes a given video that is similar, and you never know which time it's going to be, and then sometimes the video takes off, sometimes it doesn't. But why on the different platforms do they respond so differently? And it's different each time. You got a thought? Go on, anybody.
Oh, I mean, I definitely have a thought.
Go on. What do you got?
Yeah, it performs differently because there's different audiences, different groups of people on different platforms and different algorithms, right? So like that's, I mean, in a nutshell, that's why they perform differently, right? It's different environments, right? So
I hear you. Yeah, it's just interesting because, like, let's say I talk about this today, that this time on TikTok it could hit, the next time it doesn't, the next time it does. So anyway, Reels, how's your service? That's what we're talking about today. I think it's that time of day where we go to the very exclusive. You can only see it here, Tom's Thumbs. So this is where we talk about something from media, pop culture. Tom, today I want to ask you your thoughts on fast casual restaurants.
fast casual restaurants. Okay. Um, all right, let me think about this for a second. So, I mean, obviously it's a relatively broad category of restaurants, right? I think it goes everything from like technically Chipotle is like a fast casual restaurant, right? Like that's a fast casual restaurant. Friday is a fast casual restaurant, right? No? You tell me.
I think if you have a server, it is not a fast casual restaurant. I think if you go to a counter and order, you're fast casual.
Okay. Okay. So what do I think about fast casual restaurants? I think I think two things. I think they are there's a ton of opportunity in a fast casual restaurant setting to provide dramatically better food with a similar sort of speed experience that you get to fast food, right? So I think and again, I Chipotle was the first example that popped into my head, right? Because that was like when somebody says fast casual, like that's kind of what pops to mind, right? So, in a restaurant like Chipotle, you have much better food quality wise, right? And less ultra processed, right? I mean, like, look, everything you eat that's cooked is technically processed food, right? If it's cooked, that is a process that it goes through before you put it in your mouth. It's processed, right? So, like, that is definitionally anything that you cook is processed food, but it's not ultra processed food, right? It is not it doesn't have sort of all the added ingredients that help make it sort of delicious in the way fast food is delicious, right? The way it makes it hit, so to speak, right? To kind of put a colloquial term on it, right? Like the fast food hits partially because of the ultra processing, right? Just like Doritos hit because of the ultra processing, right? So anyway, like I think fast casual is great because it gives you the opportunity to get a meal quickly that is also better made with better ingredients, tastes better, and is likely better for you as a better balance of macronutrients than what you'll find at a fast food restaurant that can be very heavy on carbohydrates and fat and light on sort of like protein, the other big macronutrient, right? But just kind of have a way outsized, much higher levels of sort of carbohydrates and fats than you really want to get in a meal, especially compared to protein. So yeah, so I think it gives you, generally speaking, I think fast casual restaurants give you a great opportunity to get a meal quickly that is also better for you. And I kind of like the experience, right? I like the experience of like a Chipotle where you walk in and you're like, hey, like I get to build this from the ground up. I'm gonna have a burrito bowl. I want to start with the rice with cilantro, right? I want some black beans. I want chicken. I want fajita vegetables. I want like whatever the case may be, right? Whatever floats your boat. I'm typically skipping sour cream. Not a huge fan of sour cream. I'll skip sour cream, but I'll definitely do guac, even though I know it's extra. So like I like that experience of like you get to customize it, you get to have it sort of the way that you want to have it, but you also get it really quickly. It's filling, and it's a little bit of a better balanced meal than you would get at like Mickey D's, right? The Big Mac value meal while it may be satiating and you may find it enjoyable, I don't think you could have any sort of question from a nutritional standpoint that you're better off eating a burrito bowl from Chipotle than you are eating a Big Mac meal from McDonald's. So in terms of like sustenance and what it provides you, I think they're a great option. And I would rather like kind of the trend moves in that direction of more of a fast casual kind of experience than a fast food experience. I think if we could maybe push fast food restaurants into a more kind of fast casual direction, we might end up with better food all around. So I don't know. That's my thought. I would give a fast casual restaurant a thumbs up. If you want to ask me about a specific one, we could do like a rapid fire thumbs up, thumbs down on specific fast casuals if you want, if you have a few in mind. Otherwise, I'll just give fast casual restaurants a thumbs up and we'll leave it at that.
Okay, we can start down this process. Hey, I see our friend Jim Ajay stopped by. That is 3 thumbs up in a row we need like a statistician. 3 thumbs up in a row for Tom Stumps. He's giving fast casual thumbs up. So I'm mad at fast casual, Tom. I just went to Chipotle the other day. Okay, I like Chipotle, but this day it wasn't the best. But my beef with it is at the same day, my son went to Jersey Mike's, got a sandwich. The sandwich was $17.95 before tax, before tip. I personally, to not sit there, to not have a waitress, to have to take it home, so you get to build it yourself. But $17.95 for a sandwich with not even a bag of chips. Come on, man. I wish I could have gave it a thumbs down. So Jersey Mike's charging $17.95 for a sandwich. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean that gets a thumbs down. Here's the other thing too, is I also think tipping culture is out of control, right? I think there's no so the reason, and Dom, you know this as a somebody who owned a restaurant and who worked in restaurants, right? Like there is an exemption for service workers, right? So for bartenders, wait staff, busboys, etc., right? In restaurants, front of house people in restaurants, right? There's an exemption for them in the minimum wage standard law that basically says you can underpay them. You can pay them less than minimum wage, less than the federal standard minimum wage, right? Because they get some of their income through tips, right? And so you can pay them like $3 and change an hour or something like that, right? Well, that exemption doesn't apply to workers at like your coffee shop. It doesn't apply to people behind the counter at Jersey Mike's or at Chipotle, right? All of those people are subject to standard wage laws and whatever, depending on what state you're in. Some of those minimum wage laws are 15, 20 something dollars an hour, right? Like, and I'm not arguing that those wages are out of place. If anything, I would argue that they probably still need to go up, right? There's still room for improvement. My complaint is with tipping culture, right? Like I genuinely think, first of all, I think we should do away with the exemption for front of house service workers in restaurants. Like there's no good reason why any restaurant should be able to underpay their staff. They should have to pay them at least the minimum wage. And I think genuinely we should try to move away from having to tip everyone, where tipping should be an expression of exceptional service and not a standard like, oh, well, the price on the menu is only this, but I still have to tip on top of that. So like really the price is that plus 20%, which is kind of crazy. I think just add some margin on the price on the menu and leave it at that, right? Like I think it provides better transparency for everyone. Anyway, like see, you should have asked me about tipping culture. I would have.
Let's get into this, Tom. Why do I have to? Why? I mean, how is everybody not offended by somebody turning this iPad around? You know, that they turn the register around. Like half the time, they don't even talk to me. They didn't even say a word. They didn't even smile. And then they turn the iPad around, and I'm like, you barely handed me something and made me feel bad about it. And now you went doop and turned the iPad around where the 6 people behind me can see it. And I'm like, okay, but talk about that culture. And then I don't even get a thank you. They don't even see it. It's like, boom, you turned it. I gave a good tip. Nothing, not a smile, not a thank you. I can't take it.
Yeah, I don't tip. in those situations. And like people might come at me.
I don't believe you. I bet I'm standing behind you and you're like, doop, doop.
The only time I tip in one of those situations is truly when someone has gone above and beyond and exceeded expectations. Then I will tip, right? But like in those situations, I do not provide a tip. I do not hit the 15, 20, 25% button. I hit no tip and I sign and I'm out, right? Because again, it is a the tipping exists in cases where people are allowed to be underpaid by federal law. They're allowed to be, and state law, they're allowed to be underpaid. And the tipping exists to make up that income gap for them, right? So like in a restaurant, your server, right, the person who brings the food to your table, they get underpaid. The only way that they can pay their bills, the only way they can survive is if you tip them. That is part of their wage, right? And so, like, I always tip and I tip well in those circumstances, right? I never tip in a situation where I know they're not subject to those exemptions from minimum wage laws, where I know that they are paid reasonably well, where I know they have access to benefits, right? Like, so like Starbucks is a great example. Like Starbucks, generally speaking, pays their employees relatively well. We won't get into the union busting behavior of Starbucks in the last few years. Obviously, I disagree with that. I'm very much in favor of unionization, and I believe that Starbucks and other companies like them that are trying to union bust should be held accountable for it. But like those tip jars, it all started with kind of like this sort of like broad proliferation of tipping everywhere. Started with like tip jars at Starbucks, I believe. Right, like at least that's where I first remember seeing it, was like these tip jars at Starbucks. And I since that time, like I remember people talking about how great the benefits were of working at Starbucks, how reasonable the wages were for working at Starbucks, like how the baristas were reasonably well paid. They were offered benefits. They were given all these sort of, they were treated like decently for service workers, right? They were treated well. It was sort of held up as a standard, the way Starbucks treated their employees. And then they started putting out tip jars, and it was sort of like, wait, hang on a second. Like we've been hearing for like years about how you guys are treated pretty well. You make decent wages. People go after these jobs because there's tuition assistance programs. There's all these, benefits that you get access to. And now you're saying like, hey, I need tips because I'm being underpaid. Like, I don't think so. That something doesn't click. And I think what they realized, what a lot of people realized, was if you put a tip jar out, people will put money in it, right? And it's just sort of an easy way to get a little bonus, right? And similar thing, if you put a tipping option on that iPad, when you spin it around, people are going to feel guilty about hitting no tip, and so they're going to hit tip, right? And they're going to give you a little bit extra. There's also some questions in some circumstances. I'm not going to accuse every business of this, but in some circumstances, there are some questions as to whether or not those tips actually get to the workers, right? When you hit tip and it bumps up the charge on your credit card, does the business actually do the work of separating that money out and making sure it ends up in the pockets of those workers, or does the business just keep the money? And there's a lot of instances where it turned out the business was just keeping the money, right? So like that's the other reason I don't do it. But yeah, so yeah, I hit no tip. And you can sneak up behind me and look over my shoulder. I promise you, in those situations, you're going to see me hit no tip on the iPad. And most of the time, the worker doesn't even notice because they're either not paying attention or they've gone to like, often it happens to me at like a coffee shop, right? So like they'll go to like fill, because I often just get like a drip coffee. I'm not even getting like a fancy espresso drink. I don't get anything with like 17 pumps of caramel like you do, Dom. But like I'm just getting a drip coffee, right? And so like they'll just go fill up my coffee cup, come back, and by the time they've come back, the transaction's over. They don't even know if I hit tip or not, right? So like I don't even worry about it. And like you said, half the time they don't even say hi or good morning or like, how are you today? Or anything like that. It's what can I get you? And then they silently hand you your coffee and you walk away. Right. So like, why am I going to tip for that? Just hit no tip.
I feel you, man. Hey, Jason, you were flashing. What'd you want to add as a former server? What do you got?
There's a lot of things going on. I mean, everybody's feeling the pinch of the economy right now, right? So what's interesting, I waited tables back in, I think it was 2007. That's when we had the big bust, the loan bust and all that. And I remember the first thing that I knew when the market went down for real estate, the first thing I started noticing, because I'd work on a couple of lunches here and there, that it was a ghost town in the restaurant. And the restaurant business sees it first because when you don't have money, you're not going to go anywhere. And what would happen is I started noticing back then, like these mobile delivery services that were just like really coming online. And I was noticing these delivery drivers come and pick up food to take it to the office because people don't want to go to the restaurant, but they would tip the driver. And I'm like, wait a second, you don't want to see me as what I thought. And you think you're getting it cheaper to go, but you're tipping the delivery driver. So a lot changed, in the economies. And to comment on how you feel when you feel tipping is appropriate and not appropriate, it's kind of it's like a danger zone, a cautionary tale, because people could think you're just a cheapskate. And at the end of the day, no one, like Tom said, you're not going to know. But it is interesting. I always tip in cash. I never tip on my card. And I remember one time I was in a restaurant not too long ago. I was in a steakhouse and they said, no, you got to tip on the card. And I said, I don't have to do shit you say. Or, excuse my language, I'm sorry about that. Or you can get nothing. So what do you want to do? And the waiter took my money and just didn't even say another word again. And on my way out, I asked the manager, I said, you don't have your tipping policy declared. I said, did you know that there's a problem with that? And he goes, what's that? And I said, I think you might want to look up maybe some of the local rules on tipping or the state rules on tipping and your procedures, because at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want with the excess, gratuity. You're being grateful. And, you know, we're moving right now in a business where, look at, people are driving their cars just to make ends meet, along with their full-time job to pay their rent, their mortgage, or supply for their kids. So all this excess for a long time that we just kind of like didn't really care. We saw the things bounce back, but this is a time where people are really scared and people are relying on that gratuity. And there's these companies that are taking advantage of people and their vehicles. So I'm anti-delivery service, even though it's employing somebody. But I also have a new policy. I don't eat casual plus corporate. I go eat local and local food truck alone. If we go to a restaurant, it's certain select small business first because that circulates in the community. But when people talk about tipping, they don't think, like, when you're in a mom and pop place, they're always grateful. If you're getting a cup of coffee, unless you really made something significantly wow, I mean, I just think like, okay, you know, but I think that the government oversteps and corporate oversteps about how they're regulated and how they're initiated. And we have to really look at each other as human beings. Like, hey, everybody's trying to make ends meet, but at the end of the day, it's like, I've got to take care of me. And if I'm not giving extra money, nothing personal, it's just my choice of how I spend my dollar. And I encourage people, buy local, buy small first, corporate last.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with that sentiment, Jason. Like, absolutely. If you're going to go patronize a restaurant, skip the big venture capital owned chain restaurant, right? And go support a restaurant that's owned by one of your neighbors, right? That's run that the people working in are maybe, the teenage kids that live up the street, right? The high school students from the local community. The business owner is somebody that lives down the block from you. Like, those are the businesses we should always put our money into first. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely support that sentiment. And yeah, go to food trucks, man. Food trucks are freaking great. I love this sort of food truck revolution. I wish we had a better street food culture in this country. I think street food.
Oh, you should come to California, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like
You
I've been.
should.
Yeah, no, I love food trucks, man. I love food trucks. I love street food culture. Like, I think it's great. I wish we had. If you ever get a chance, look up and you can find old episodes of I think he was on No Reservations, but I think he did it on his show on CNN also. Anthony Bourdain used to go around, obviously go all over Southeast Asia, but look up the hawker marts in Singapore, like that. Look those up. If you're not familiar with them, look them up, watch a video on them, and enjoy, because I wish we had something like that here in the States. They're amazing. They're great places. I was just telling
You mean
somebody
on the
about 'em.
East Coast?
Well, yeah, we don't even really have them. We don't, to my knowledge, we don't have anything that's quite like Hawker Marts anywhere. And it's because it takes a while to sort of build up to that. And it's a result of a long-standing culture of small, like individual dish focused, like sort of micro restaurants. But anyway, yeah, they're really cool. They're amazing. I would go back to Singapore for a day just for the Hawker Marts. Anyway, what we have to do now, we got to shift gears a little bit, do a little bit of a transition. What we're going to do is we're adapting show and tell. So now we're gonna shift it around, and Dom is gonna take us on a little trip down memory lane, which is what he's kind of always done with show and tell. But it means that he doesn't always have to physically have something to literally show us. But sometimes he will, sometimes he won't. We'll never know until it happens. But for right now, Dom, why don't you take us on a little trip down memory lane?
Last week, I don't remember what I showed because I was thinking. I remembered talking about wanting to be in the restaurant business and crying behind a dumpster, and I didn't have a dumpster to show. But this week, last week I was talking about being a server at Fridays and felon training, and I had this goal to always own a restaurant, right? And so today, looking around, I found some restaurant merch from when I opened my own restaurant. And so here it was called Icons. So see, here's an ad that was in the paper here. They have the Steelers on the side, Icons up there, little tickets down at the bottom, like coupons there. Okay. And then even cooler, here's a takeout menu that was there. Icons, takeout menu, that's upside down.
Yeah,
There you go, Icons, takeout menu. And then an article from the newspaper. And there you see the front of Icons. And if you look real close, there's Dom in his apron way back in the day. So I started the reason for this show and tell is because last week I told you I always wanted to do it. And then you push forward, you learn as much as you can. And in my early 20s, I made it happen. There it was, Icons. So that's what you get today, Tom. It was official. It happened, and you keep going, and sometimes things work out.
would you do it again?
Here's the thing, and caveat: I lost $500,000 in 3 years, bankrupt, foreclosures, all kinds of stuff like that. But I think if I hadn't done it when I was 23, 24, 25, I would have tried to do it when I was 55, 65. I think it would have always been something that I had to do. I did it. I loved it, loved the atmosphere, the energy. But there was also a time where it's 11 o'clock on a Saturday night or Friday night when everybody was coming home from work and you were going to work. Saturday when I missed all the birthday parties and family parties. I had some guilt over how much time I was there. So I would do it if it meant getting to the point in my life I'm at right now. But if I had to do it, I'd probably do it differently in a lot of ways. I think I learned enough to do things differently.
What I mean is, would you do it again in the future?
Interesting. Would I do it again in the future? Only if I was a partner with somebody else. I love what I do, but I do love business, and I understand good business. And if the right situation where I was a partner or something like that, conceivably, but not the way it was before. How's that? How's that?
Yeah,
Memory
no, that's
lane
good.
and future. Yeah, there
Because
you go.
I kind of have a long-standing sort of thing that I say that I someday I want to own a dive bar that has unreasonably good food, right? So I want the atmosphere of a dive bar. I want it in like a standalone structure. I want it to be, like in an old house or like something like that, like not not in a sort of a commercial area. I want it to kind of be in its own little place, and I want it to have uh food that is shockingly good, right? Like, and but not necessarily complex, right? Like good food just done really really well with a lot of care. And and cold drinks, a great whiskey selection, great beer selection. And the place where everyone, like all the locals can go. It's affordable. It's a great place to go hang out and spend time, bring your family, and then hang out late night if you want to. But then also have it be a place where people travel from out of town to come to check out. So like
Tom, I got a question about that.
go
Do
ahead.
you have typical favorites that you just go to, or do you actually explore to find those kind of places? Because a lot of people they stick to what they know. They don't look outside the box. And there's a lot of places just like what you're talking about that I've seen just driving around.
Yeah, no, there are places like that for sure. For sure. I think excuse me, I think for me, like I'm a little bit of an explorer and I like to go find those places whenever I'm somewhere. And I've been in tons of them all over the country, right? And in some cases all over the world. So yeah, I think those places exist. I've always wanted to own one, right? So it's not that those places don't exist. It's that I've always wanted to have one of those places to sort of call home, at the end of the day. And I've sort of jokingly said that's my retirement plan, that someday I'll own one, and I'll be it won't be a place where I have to be the bartender, right? Like the idea is to own it, be hands off, and let it run, get out of its way, and let it be successful. So I'm not even talking about necessarily building it from the ground up or opening it. I may even just buy one that's already established and doing really well one day, right? I'm not talking about like tomorrow, but someday I want to own a place like that. And maybe I even just buy an ownership share. I don't even actually buy the whole thing, right? Maybe I just buy a piece of it, and that's I get a little income from being a part owner of it, and I get to have a place to go hang out and have my own little local watering hole that I'd love to be a part of. So yeah, so I mean, I know they exist. I don't think it's revolutionary, the idea to have one. I just and I don't even necessarily want to build it. I just want to be a part of it. So yeah. So Jim, you came up on stage in a rare change. I gotta ask, what's going on? What brings you up?
Yeah, Tom, what you just described with the bar is exactly what my cousin did. He had a corporate job, did really well, got an early buyout, and him and his wife bought a bar. And this bar was a dive bar. Uh, it's still pretty much a dive bar. They fixed it up a little bit, but they renovated the kitchen. When they bought it, they hired a chef. Okay, so they had people that were making like bar food. Now they elevated everything. It's actually, I don't know how far you are from West Deptford, New Jersey, but it's in New Jersey, and it's called Southwood Bar. They have a steak night one night a week. They have one night a week where they actually bring in seafood, fresh seafood, and they have like crab legs and crab cakes and all kind of seafood things that literally at this dive bar. So they have great food. They pay their chef a crazy wage to keep him because, and basically whenever they did this kitchen renovation that was like 250,000, he basically designed the kitchen to in a way to keep him there. Their head bartender is a master mixologist. He makes the craziest drinks that when you look at, you think no way is that good, and then when you try it, it's unbelievable. They have regular clientele. They have entertainment normally on like Fridays and Saturdays, and it is exactly what you mentioned. It was established in like 1953. They bought it literally 2 weeks before COVID hit. And in Jersey, it was one of the most strict states when it came to COVID. So they literally basically went a year without opening. They owned a bar and they couldn't run it for a year. So the financial stress was insane at first, but they have a great local. They have locals that come in every day. Uh, it's really just a cool bar, and he is loving life. And I would highly recommend that you try it someday.
I mean, I love hearing that this what often people describe to me as a ridiculous and crazy dream is not so ridiculous and crazy that it's impossible. Is it Jim, or is it John and Denise?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. I found the website. So I wanted to make sure I had the right place. I'm curious to see. I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see how far it is.
Well, if you follow their social media, they're pretty active on social media. They post a lot of stuff. And so one night he showed me their new menu when we were just there over the weekend a couple weeks ago. And one night they actually have a chicken cutlet night where they make all these different kind of sandwiches with chicken cutlets with like prosciutto and all these crazy things and like balsamic glaze, and I mean just like gourmet chicken cutlet sandwiches that are ridiculous. So like they're finding their niche, they're doing different things each day, and it's just a cool place. The other fun fact about that is it was owned by a woman in 1953, and I think it's the longest running bar in New Jersey that's woman owned, and she would only sell it to another woman. So my cousin's wife actually bought the bar, but he's obviously married to her and part owner. But she would only sell it to another woman to keep that women business tradition going, which was kind of neat too.
Well, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And it's all the way down by Philly. So it's a bit of a hike for me, but next month, not next month, actually, in the beginning of December, we're going down to Delaware because going down to Rehoboth Beach. Becky's running a race down there, and my wife Becky, and so we will be driving right past that part of New Jersey, and maybe we'll have to figure out the timing so we can stop there for lunch.
And Tom, if you're a cheesesteak fan, he makes the best cheesesteak in all of Philly, and it's not even in Philly. So I'll just leave it at that.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Dom, we're a couple minutes over, buddy. You got anything to add before
we should make reels. We should make reels of Jimmy talking about that restaurant and send it to them. They owe him like free food for life. I just wanted to say on Dive Bar, last thing from me today before we go to this beautiful wrap up. We got a local one. It's down the street from me. I go there. The food takes an hour every time. The food is solid. The beer is cold. I can sit in a corner. Nobody bothers me. Expectations. I know what I'm getting. Fair cost. It's going to take a shitload of time for me to get the food. I can hang out with my beautiful wife. So I go back. If you all of a sudden said, if I went in there thinking I'm getting my food in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, probably not the place for me. But I can sit in the corner. I know what I'm getting. So I go back because I know the expectations were set. I'm comfortable with that. And then I got to make my choice depending on that. This is not the smartest guys in the room. Tom, wrap it up for us. What do you got?
So I want to tell a quick story as a wrap up, rather than like sort of waxing philosophical on it. This little bar in Kodiak, Alaska, that I used to go to, that was like the local dive bar that we went to all the time when I lived up there, called the Rendezvous, is the kind of place I wanna have one day. They had surprisingly good food. And one of the things that they used to do, and it made it a really fun atmosphere, is they would do on Friday nights, they did steak night. at most Friday nights. And it was by reservation only because they only had a certain number of steaks because you're on an island off the coast of Alaska. So it depends on what came in on the barge that week and whether or not they have steaks, right? And the steaks were ribeyes, and one of the local guys would run the grill, and it was literally just a Weber on the deck. Like that was what they used. And then they would make baked potatoes and a salad and some vegetables as a side. But like, you would just tell them how you wanted your steak, and Jeff would be out on the back grill drinking beers and cooking steaks. And it was sort of like going to a family dinner, right? Because everybody was just, like people would sit together. Sometimes you'd have multiple, they only had so many tables. So if you had like a 6-top table and you had 2 parties of 3, well, guess what? Those 2 parties of 3 are sitting at the 6-top together, right? Like that's just the way it went. And everybody, you were getting a ribeye on a plate brought to you. And if it was undercooked, you just asked Jeff to throw it back on the grill for a minute or 2. Right. And it was very much like sort of a family cookout kind of atmosphere, but at a restaurant. And like, that's the kind of place I want to have. And I think ultimately, when it comes down to providing really good service for your customers, your clients, it is about creating a great experience for them and making sure that you give them the opportunity to feel good about supporting your brand or your products or your services or your dive bar or whatever the case may be. So just bear that in mind as you go forward for the rest of the week or further afield. Just always try to create a great experience for your customers, for your audience, for your community, and they will repay you in kind. They will support your brand, your business for that experience. So that's all I got for this week. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. Jim, thanks for jumping up and telling us about your cousin's place in New Jersey. I'm excited to maybe try to check it out for lunch at the beginning of December as we roll past Philly. So thanks for that. Appreciate all of you guys being here and listening as always. We love you. We thank you. We appreciate you. And until next time, for Dom, I'm Tom. We're not the smartest guys in the room, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.